Hi, I'm Andy Webb. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my £1,000 Money Makeover series. We are getting towards the end now. We're on the home straight. Not so many videos left. Hopefully already you have smashed that £1,000 and you're well on your way to maybe even £2,000 worth of savings. Maybe you're still getting there because bits and pieces, I say not all these videos are going to be for every single one. You might already have done some of these bits and pieces. But hopefully by the end of this, by we finish this, all of you are going to be at least £1,000 better off. Now in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can really reduce the amount of money you spend on food without actually making too much difference to what you eat, when you eat and where you eat it. That's the important thing there. Don't think this is about going down just to eating lentils and value food. It is not, okay? You can still eat out, you can still eat nice food. Okay, but this is about making sure you are getting the best value for your money, and that often means you can get a lot of cash back in your back pocket. So here we go. Here's how to save money on your food. So obviously we're talking about food and I've come to my kitchen. I thought that was a pretty appropriate place. And let's start with the food that we cook in the kitchen. And where do we get that from? We get that from the supermarket, don't we? That is where we spend a lot of our time when we are spending cash. A lot of our money goes to the supermarket. We're there every single week. Sometimes we're there more than once a week. Okay, and although you might be thinking, yeah, I can't cut my food bill down at all, I reckon there are still some ways you can do this, and every little bit of saving you make, because we go there so often, because we spend so much money there, it really will add up over the year. So the first thing to think about, and this might seem really simple, really obvious, and maybe some of you think, no, that won't work, I know what I need, I know what I need to buy. But I promise you, if you go to a supermarket with a shopping list of the food you actually need, okay, and stick to it, you will spend less money. There have been all sorts of studies that have shown that people who go in and just get the trolley and meander around the aisles and sort of, oh, that looks quite nice, or I fancy that, or that's a great special offer, buy more than they wanted to. In the first place, buy more than they need. Now, I'm not saying there isn't something which you do this every single time, so not to stick so strictly to the list that you see something that you would normally buy but not at that price, or something you can buy in bulk as an offer. Okay, I'm not saying completely ignore those offers. I certainly don't. I can't walk past the reduced food section without having a little look and often bringing something back to whack in the freezer. But if you've got that list and you stick to it, that is how you will avoid a lot of the traps that the supermarket sets. Now, some of the things they might do are about putting things on the end of aisle, putting things at eye level, okay? Once you know a lot of these tricks and you can work your way around them, you will spend less. Now, I won't go into all those details here. I will share an article with you in the notes so you can read more about some of those tricks and how to avoid them. But a very easy one that you can give a go to is to drop down a brand. Now, often, since we were kids, you know, we've been raised on Kellogg's cornflakes, Heinz tomato ketchup. Certain brands were like, no, that's what I have and I don't like anything else, and you're adamant you stick to it, right? But I think actually, if you do try a different brand, I'm saying just try something different, the own brand, supermarket own brand option, or maybe you always go for like the top of the range, taste the difference, whatever it is, try the next one down, the next level down. Try basically a cheaper alternative that you see on the shelves. Just for one product, give it a go. A lot of the time, you're going to be satisfied with it. It's going to be just as good. And that's because a lot of the time, these things, they are made in the same factories by the same people, often with the same ingredients. Maybe there's a slight difference, but not much that most of us would notice enough to potentially justify quite high price differences. So give it a go. That's all I'm saying. Give it a go, because when you do try these cheap alternatives, you can save a lot of money, and maybe you'll find something which you want to stick with. So just try it once, like it, great. Don't like it, go back to what you had before. Now, there is always a thing here as well, which we often get caught up in that branding. I talked about the Kellogg's and the Heinz. Do you remember the Pepsi challenge? Now, years ago, I did a Pepsi challenge at work when I was at the BBC. It was a science program, and they were testing it out in the office to see if it was something they wanted to give a go and talk about the psychology behind it on the show. So they came along with two glasses, one with Coke, one with Pepsi. Didn't know which was which. And I've always been a Coke person. Coke's always been my thing. I like Coke, don't like Pepsi, okay? Gone with that branding image in my head. Tried them too, I preferred Pepsi, right? Didn't expect it to at all, but I really did. They came and did it again a bit later on, but because the glasses were clear, and I'd already done it, I noticed that the first time round, one of them had more carbonation, it was more bubbly. I can't remember which one it was now. But straight away I knew before I tasted it, I knew which was Pepsi and which was Coke just by looking. And that time, when I had that kind of branding in my head, I preferred Coke, which is really bizarre. It really threw me, but just showed you how powerful that marketing has been, and that idea of what you like and what you don't like is there in your head. But as soon as I took that stuff away, I genuinely did prefer Pepsi. Okay, I like them both, I'll drink them both. But I think if you take that open-mindedness to all your other food, try a cheaper ketchup, try a cheaper cornflakes, see if you like it, give it a go, okay? And you might be able to save yourself some cash. Similarly, you can do the same thing by switching your supermarkets. Now, we all know that some supermarkets are regarded as the cheapest out there, and we're talking about Aldi and Lidl, right? Try and get food from there, give it a go, see if you like it or not. If you've got one near you, unfortunately, I don't have one that I can walk to, so I don't go there very often. But you can save yourself a lot of money on a huge amount of your normal staples that you'd buy. Give it a go. If you don't like it, you can always switch back, right? Similarly, try the main supermarket as well. Again, much and muchish, I think, a lot of the time, because one item might be a hell of a lot cheaper, but the other item in your basket could be more expensive than the other supermarket. And I often find they kind of level out, okay? So that makes it a bit trickier, but give it a go. See what you find. Track your spending. Do a week at your normal supermarket, then switch to another one for a week and see what difference it has meant to the amount you've spent, okay? Give it a go, because these things, because we shop so often, every time we save just 10p here, a pound there, it all adds up in one shop, but then all the shops over the entire year, it can make a huge difference as well. Now, I'm not saying don't go to places like Waitrose and M&S. I actually do most of my food shopping in Waitrose and M&S because they're right around the corner from my house, both of those ones. But the reason I make those more expensive supermarkets work for me is because I'm always, as I said, going past that reduced aisle, right? Every single time. I'm checking what's there, and I've got room in the freezer. I will throw some reduced chicken breasts in there. For me, one of the things I don't want to sacrifice on is higher welfare meat, so I'll always get farm assured or free range or organic meat. That's really important to me. I know I can get that in Waitrose and M&S. I know I'll pay a lot more money for it, but because the food's often reduced, and often reduced really quite well, I'm getting it for a much lower price than just buying full price, not very good chicken from another supermarket, okay? So that reduced section is my friend, I'm sure it'll be your friend as well, and you can use the freezer for that. Again, I've got an article about that with more information about the things you can freeze, the things you can't freeze, which can really, really make a huge amount of difference to how much money you have. Now, obviously, once you've got the food, you've bought the food, and you've brought it back home, there are ways you can save money on how you cook it. Now, I've got a whole video about avoiding food waste, which you can check out as well if you want to. Now, this video will take you in more detail through the different steps, but in basics are, don't waste food, okay? Because you may as well just put money in the bin. That's essentially what you're doing when you're cooking too much food. You know, portions are too big and you just put the rest in the bin. Too much pasta, too much rice. Essentially what you're doing when you're letting food go past its sell by date and just chucking it away, things like that, okay? Avoid doing that, cut that out, and again, we are talking hundreds of pounds saved every single year, and it doesn't take much at all, okay? Now that's obviously all very well for food you have at home. There are huge ways you can save money as well when you're eating out, and I'm talking here about your lunches when you're at work, when you're going out for a nice meal, or even just getting takeaways back home, but again, you're not cooking it, you're buying it in. You can save a huge amount of cash in all of those. Now I know some people, they'd probably find it quite difficult to cut back on how often they eat out for their lunch. But let's say you can just give it a go, right? Let's say you can have 4 packed lunches in a week, and that is not difficult. I've been doing it for most of my working life, all right? I've been bringing leftovers in, I've been making sarnies, good variety of food. It saved me a huge amount of cash, right? But let's say you do that just 4 days a week. 1 day a week, you still go to get that, say, you know, the out with your colleagues for a nice pub lunch or whatever it might be, or whatever you do, right? Let's say you're spending £3 rather than £10 on those 4 days a week. Over those 220 working days, that savings add up to £1,400, 1,400 quid. Now, personally, I know I'd much rather have a nice lunch that I've made myself, right? And £1,400 in the bank than getting the same kind of stuff all the time. And it's, do you know what? You think it's hassle, it's not hassle. The amount of time when I used to queue up for food, say on Lever Lane in London, the market there, or wait in Boots for your meal deal, which you appreciate is obviously cheaper than 10 quid, but you're still queuing up, you're still waiting for that food, you're still having to go out and get it. Use that time in the morning just to make a sandwich. It takes no time at all. Do it the night before with your leftovers, put it in a Tupperware box. It's actually, once you get into the habit of this, it's really, really easy. And habit is so important here with this kind of stuff. But do this and have £1,400 in your bank and still go out for a meal once a week, or spend £2,200 on your packed lunch. And that's just at £10 level. And not all the snacks and things come into this as well. Factor that kind of stuff in as well. It really, really, really adds up. If 4 days seems too much, why not start with 1 and build up to 2 to 3 if you can, to get into that habit of it. It all makes a huge difference. Now, something else you can think about, obviously, is when you eat out in the evenings or weekends, things like that, okay, which is fantastic. It's one of my favourite things to do. I like going out for nice meals, every week if I can. Sometimes on anniversaries, birthdays, things like that, I like to go to really nice, expensive ones and try the amazing food, main atmosphere, whatever it might be, okay? I like eating out. But it's all about moderation, isn't it? It's about choosing when to do it and when not to do it. And a lot of the time, if you haven't got the money to do it as much as you want, what you can do is substitute some of your normal places for special offers and cheap alternatives. So these can be, it's not just about getting a taste card to go to Pizza Express, which can be in itself, a decent saving if that's where you like going, but you can still go to really nice restaurants just by looking for things like early pre-theatre meal deals. There's a group of restaurants called Hawksmoor steak restaurants, fantastic restaurants, London, Edinburgh, Manchester, really, really, really nice. One of my favourite restaurants. Can be really expensive. It is a kind of a treat place most of the time. But they also have, every day, as long as you're sat by 6:30, which is not unreasonable, once you get out of work, sit down for dinner at 6:30, I think is pretty reasonable, you can get 3 courses for 28 quid. That is a big saving you can get on if you went just 15 minutes later at 6:45 and sat down and just had the normal menu. Yeah, you have a bit more choice, but you're going to spend a lot more money. And if you can't afford that, look for things like that pre-theatre meal because it gives you a big, big discount. Similarly, look for places that have bring your own booze nights, special deals where on a Monday they just charge you £5 corkage, but you can bring your own wine. Again, you're going to save yourself a lot of money if you do that every single month. Once a month, just go to bring your own booze place rather than another one, and you're looking at saving yourself 10 quid a month, 120 quid over the year. All these things, because we eat food so often, whether it's at the supermarket or eating out, all these little savings, just once a month, if not once a week, really make a big difference over a year. And one of the biggest kind of ways we can save money is on a takeaway. Now, households in the UK, on average, have 3 takeaways every single month. You might have more, you might have less, but that's the average. And the average cost of that takeaway is £12.73. Again, you might think that's pretty cheap price for an average takeaway, but that's the average cost, all right? If you can just drop your takeaways from 3 times a month to 2 times a month using that average cost, right? That's a saving of more than 150 quid over a year. Now, it's all about moderation with this kind of thing, isn't it? Still have your takeaways, still have the convenience that it brings and maybe the tasty food that it brings with it as well. But if you do it less often, it makes it more of a treat, makes it hopefully enjoy it much more, take it for granted a lot less. And you will save yourself 150 quid just on those average prices. It could be a lot more for you if you spend a lot more on your takeaways, if you have a lot more takeaways. I'm not saying go without, I'm talking about substitutions. With a lot of these things, so from your supermarket choices to your lunch choices to your takeaway choices, just doing something a little bit different, which gives you better value for money, doing it less often so you enjoy it more, whatever it might be, it's going to make a big, big difference. So there you go, that's food. I think it's one of the biggest money savers, particularly if you're one of these people who spends a lot of money on their lunch at work every single week. Straight away you see that's a big, big, big amount of cash you can have just by making one simple habit change. But all the little bits, I say, they really add up, and potentially this can make this one of the biggest money savers out of this entire series. Now, if you haven't watched any of the others yet, or you've missed one or two, you can check out the playlist where you can watch all the other videos so far and the ones that are still to come when they are released. Please do like and share, click that thumbs up on this video if you found it useful. And until next time, cheers.